You know, we all use mental shortcuts. It's how we get through the day in a really complex world. But what happens when those shortcuts go wrong? When they lead to prejudice, to discrimination, and in the most extreme cases, when they become a matter of life and death? Well, today, we're going to explore that hidden world of negative attitudes and figure out how we can start to dismantle them.
This quote from HIV and Aids, wow, it just nails the problem. It's not a simple straight line from a bad thought to a bad action. It's a vicious circle, a dangerous feedback loop where the stigma makes the discrimination seem okay, and the discrimination just makes the stigma even stronger. Our mission today is to figure out how to break that loop.
So, how are we going to do it? Here's the game plan. First, we'll tear this cycle apart to see how it works. Then we'll look at the real human cost of stigma. After that, we'll get into the good stuff, strategies for change, from the big national level all the way down to you and me.
All right, first up, that vicious circle. To really get a handle on this, we're going to look at a super powerful and frankly, heartbreaking case study, the global fight against HIV. It is a stark example of how society's attitudes can become actual, life-threatening barriers.
Let's just put it out there, no sugarcoating it. Negative attitudes are literally killing people. In the world of HIV, the fear of being judged, that fear is so powerful that it stops people from getting tested, from getting life-saving medicine, from protecting the people they love. This isn't a metaphor. It is a tragic reality where stigma can be just as deadly as the virus itself.
So how does this vicious circle actually work? It's not some mysterious, invisible force. It's more like a machine. It has different parts that work together. And if we want to take that machine apart, we have to understand how it was built in the first place. So let's pop the hood and take a look.
It all kicks off with stereotypes. Think of them as filing cabinets in your brain. Our brains create them to help us sort information really, really quickly. The problem is, a lot of the time, the information in those files is just wrong, or it's incomplete. And we end up shoving entire groups of unique individuals into one tiny, rigid box.
And those stereotypes? Well, they're the fuel for the next part, prejudice. If the stereotype is the faulty file folder, prejudice is that negative gut feeling you get when you pull it out. It's an emotional reaction that isn't based on the actual person in front of you, but on that flawed label you've slapped on their entire group.
And this is the critical step. This is where a negative thought turns into a harmful action. Discrimination is what happens when that bad feeling turns into bad behavior. We're talking about denying someone a job, or a home, or just basic human dignity. It is, quite literally, prejudice in action.
You know, even the words we choose can give the game away. Just listen to the difference here. When someone says, he caught AIDS, there's this little undertone of blame, isn't there? It creates an us versus them feeling. But when you say he is HIV positive, that's just a fact. It's neutral. It's respectful. Our language shows what we're thinking, and it can make those attitudes even stronger. Okay, so we've seen the blueprint for this machine of prejudice. Now for the most important question of all. What's the human cost? What actually happens when this cycle is just left to run wild?
The consequences are just devastating. Look at this chain reaction. It starts with someone being too afraid to get a test, which means they don't get treatment. It spirals into unsafe behavior and ultimately to needless suffering and death. Every single one of these points represents a life thrown off course, not just by a virus, but by the weight of what other people think.
Man, it's a bleak picture for sure. But, and this is a really big but, it is not hopeless. This vicious cycle can be broken. In fact, we know there are strategies that work. So let's shift gears from the problem to the solution.
Real change isn't about one single magic bullet. It's a full-on, coordinated effort. It has to start at the top, with political leaders who are committed. But it also has to happen from the ground up, with things like peer support, which is incredibly powerful. And maybe most importantly, the people who are most affected have to be at the center of it all, not just getting help, but designing the solutions.
And it's not just about programs. It's about building a society where discrimination just can't thrive. That means we need leaders who will stand up and visibly challenge prejudice. It means we need strong laws that protect everybody's rights. And it means making sure that essential services are truly available to all. No fear, no judgment.
Now, this all sounds massive, I know, and it is. But systemic change doesn't just happen in government buildings or in boardrooms. It also starts on a much, much more personal level. It starts with us.
Think about people in our communities who we trust, like healthcare workers. When they show compassion and support for absolutely everyone, no matter who they are, they're doing more than just their job. They're setting a new standard for the whole community. They're creating a ripple effect of acceptance that can chip away at stigma.
But to be those kinds of role models, we first have to look inward. We have to ask ourselves some tough questions. What are my own hidden biases? Where did they even come from? And what am I going to do to actively challenge them? This kind of honest self-reflection, that's the real foundation for change.
Because at the end of the day, creating a world free from prejudice doesn't start with a law or a big program. It starts with a single conscious choice. So the question I want to leave you with is this. What is one stereotype, one of those mental shortcuts that you can challenge today?